The salvage beacon pulsed weakly through the void, a dying heartbeat in the darkness of the terminus sector. Orion Hale's modest repair vessel, the Wanderer's Wrench, drifted toward the source, a derelict ship half consumed by stellar debris. Its hull bore markings from the old wars, a conflict that had ended before Orion was born. Another ghost ship, Orion muttered, adjusting his pressure suit. Salvage rights in this sector were first come, first served, and he needed the credits desperately. His ship's oxygen recycler was failing, and parts didn't come cheap this far from Earth. The airlock hissed as he crossed into the Relic. Emergency lighting flickered, casting twisted shadows across corridors lined with alien script. The ship was Cravathi design, a species known for their warrior culture and lupine appearance. Orion had never met one. They'd gone silent after the wars, retreating to their isolated worlds. He moved carefully through the vessel, scanning for salvageable tech. The ship's reactor was cold, life support dead for what seemed like weeks. Nothing should have survived here. Then he heard it. A shallow, rasping breath. Orion froze, his hand instinctively moving to the plasma cutter at his belt. Following the sound, he entered what appeared to be a medical bay. There, strapped to an examination table, lay a Cravathi. The alien was massive, easily 7 feet of lean muscle and silver-white fur matted with dried blood. Lupine features twisted in unconscious pain, ears flat against a broad skull. But what made Orion's chest tighten was the creature's lower body, motionless, unresponsive. The spinal injury was obvious even to his untrained eye. Vrax, Orion read from the nameplate on the alien's chest. A soldier, judging by the tactical gear hanging nearby. Someone had stabilized him, administered emergency stasis, but then left him. The ethical calculus was simple but brutal. Salvagers didn't take on passengers, especially dying ones. The fuel cost alone to reach a medical station would bankrupt him. The rational choice was to strip the ship and leave. Orion stood there for a long moment, looking at Vrax's face. In sleep, the alien seemed almost peaceful, despite everything. The mechanic thought of his own father, a mining accident survivor who'd spent his last years paralyzed, waiting for a surgery Earth's overburdened healthcare system never prioritized. "Damn it," Orion whispered. He began disconnecting the medical equipment. The next 3 hours were grueling. Rigging a makeshift gurney, modifying his ship's medical pod, transferring Vrax's massive frame, all while the alien remained unconscious. By the time Orion had him secured in the Wanderer's Wrench, every muscle screamed. He'd burned too much fuel in the transfer. The nearest human outpost was now unreachable. But he'd studied the navigation logs. There was a Cravathi trading post, neutral territory. Just within range. Vrax woke on the second day. Orion heard the growl before he entered the medical bay, deep, primal, and terrified. He found Vrax conscious, straining against the restraints, yellow eyes wild with panic. The alien's powerful upper body thrashed, but his legs remained still. "Easy." Orion raised his hands. "You're safe." "I'm not." Vrax's lips curled back, revealing impressive fangs. He snarled something in his native tongue, a language Orion's translator struggled to parse. The words came through broken. "Kill me. End it. No warrior lives." "Nobody's killing anybody," Orion said firmly. He slowly approached, keeping his movements visible and calm. "I'm Orion Hale, human. I found you on that derelict. You were left behind." Understanding flickered in those alien eyes, followed by something worse than rage. Shame. Vrax stopped struggling, his body going limp. When he spoke again, his voice was hollow. Paralyzed, useless, they followed protocol. The translator caught up, rendering his words with painful clarity. "A warrior who cannot walk cannot fight. You should have left me in the void." "Yeah, well, I'm not big on leaving people to die." Orion pulled up a chair. "We're headed to a Cravathi outpost. Corval Station. Medical facilities there might know." Vrax's response was immediate and bitter. "You waste fuel and time. My spine is severed. Your species has technology for such injuries, I know. Mine does not. We believe in purity, natural form. No cybernetics, no gene therapy. A broken warrior returns to the dust." Orion felt something twist in his gut. Anger, but also recognition. He'd heard similar arguments on Earth from purists who'd rather see his father die than accept unnatural augmentation. "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard," Orion said bluntly. "And I once saw a guy try to refuel a ship with the engine still hot." Vrax's ears twitched. Surprise, maybe. Over the next 3 days, an unlikely routine developed. Orion maintained the ship, checked Vrax's vitals, and shared meals. The alien refused food at first, but hunger eventually won. They talked carefully at first, then more freely. Vrax spoke of pack bonds and honor codes, of a culture that valued strength above all. Orion countered with human stubbornness, with stories of people who defied impossible odds not because they were strong, but because they refused to quit. "Your father," Vrax said on the third night, "the paralyzed one. What became of him?" Orion's jaw tightened.
"He died waiting for treatment."
Earth's colony worlds get the scraps of medical resources. By the time he was prioritized, it was too late. Silence filled the medical bay. "I'm sorry," Vrax said quietly. It was the first time he'd expressed emotion beyond rage or resignation. "Yeah, me too." Orion met those yellow eyes. "That's why I couldn't leave you. Nobody should die alone in the dark waiting for help that never comes." On the fourth day, they reached Korval Station. Orion expected bureaucracy, maybe hostility. What he got was a crowd. A dozen Kravathi warriors stood at the dock, led by a silver-furred female whose bearing screamed authority. As Orion maneuvered Vrax's gurney down the ramp, she stepped forward. "You are the human who answered our distress call?" she asked, her translator crisp. "Distress call?" Orion blinked. The beacon was set to salvage frequency. "A test," she interrupted. "When our supply ship was attacked, Vrax activated the beacon before communications failed. We've monitored every ship that approached for weeks. 17 salvagers came. 16 stripped what they could and left our warrior to die. You..." She looked at Vrax, then back to Orion. "You sacrificed your profit and safety for a stranger of another species." Orion felt the weight of many eyes upon him. "I just couldn't leave him." The female warrior, a pack matriarch, Orion learned, placed a clawed hand on his shoulder. "Strength is not only in the body, human. Today you taught us that. Our people have been rigid, believing that to accept change is to lose ourselves. But perhaps true strength lies in adapting and choosing compassion over tradition." She turned to Vrax. "Brother, we failed you. Our protocols are built for a war that has ended. The Council will debate reform, cybernetics, therapies, new ways of healing. You will walk again if you choose." Vrax's eyes glistened. He looked at Orion, and something passed between them. Understanding, gratitude, friendship forged in crisis. "I choose," Vrax said firmly. 6 months later, Orion's ship docked at Korval Station again. His oxygen recycler was finally fixed, paid for with a generous salvage reward and a standing contract with the Kravathi trade fleet. As he descended the ramp, a familiar figure waited. Vrax stood on cybernetic legs, a marvel of Kravathi engineering enhanced by human medical knowledge, a collaboration born from one mechanic's refusal to abandon hope. The alien warrior's tail wagged once, a gesture Orion had learned meant joy. "Brother," Vrax greeted, using the human custom of a handshake. "Welcome home," Orion grinned. In saving one life, he'd bridged 2 species and proven something both cultures needed to remember. That true strength isn't found in isolation or purity, but in the courage to help others even when it costs everything. The galaxy was vast and often cruel, but humanity's greatest export wasn't technology or weapons. It was the stubborn, foolish, beautiful belief that everyone deserved a chance, and sometimes that made all the difference.